All right, let's talk about something pretty much every single one of us has dealt with. Headaches. But, not all headaches are the same. Not even close. Today, we're going to get into two of the heavy hitters, the two you hear about most, the tension-type headache and the migraine. Let's break it down.
You've been there, right? You feel that pressure starting to build in your head, and you ask yourself that one question. Okay, is this just a regular headache I can push through, or is this something else? Something that's about to completely take me out for the rest of the day? Figuring that out is everything.
So, let's meet our two main players. In this corner, the one you're most likely to run into, we have the tension-type headache. It is, by a long shot, the most common one out there. And in the other corner, you've got the migraine. It's the second most common, sure, but it often brings a whole different level of pain.
We're going to start with the one most of us are unfortunately familiar with, the tension-type headache. You can kind of think of this one as that constant, annoying companion. It shows up, it hangs around, but for most of us, we can still get through the day.
So what does a tension-type headache, or TTH, actually feel like? Well, the classic description you'll always hear is this feeling of a band of tightness. It's this persistent, squeezing pressure, almost like someone cinching a belt around your head. It's not usually that throbbing, pulsing pain. It's more of a constant, dull, pressing ache. And if we look at who gets this most often, the data is pretty clear. Tension-type headaches tend to affect women a lot more than men, and the most common age range for them to really pop up is between 30 and 50.
Now, this is where it gets really interesting. For a full 1/3 of people who get them, tension-type headaches are linked with depression. And that connection is a huge clue, because it points directly to what turns out to be one of the most effective ways to prevent them, which we'll talk about in just a bit.
One of the most important ways to identify a tension-type headache is actually by looking at what's not happening. It's all about the symptoms that are missing. With a TTH, you don't get vomiting. You don't have that extreme sensitivity to light or sound. And yeah, it's really annoying, but it usually doesn't completely stop you from doing what you need to do. That right there is the biggest giveaway. Okay, let's totally switch gears and talk about our other contender, the migraine. If a tension headache is like a nagging companion, a migraine, well, that's a full-on multi-act play. It is so much more than just a headache. It's a whole neurological event that can play out over several days.
And this timeline just lays it all out. A migraine can actually start a day or two before the pain even hits, with things like a low mood or feeling irritable. Then, for some people, comes the aura phase. Then you get the headache itself, which can last anywhere from 4 hours to a brutal 72 hours. And even when that's over, you can be left with a hangover feeling, just totally wiped out for another day or 3.
So let's zoom in on that aura stage for a second, because it's pretty wild. It only happens in about 20% of migraines, but it's this temporary visual thing that can be really unsettling. People describe seeing bright, zigzag lines kind of in their peripheral vision. Fun fact, they're sometimes called fortification spectra because the patterns can look like the walls of an old fort. It usually lasts for about 15 to 60 minutes, and then the headache starts.
And then, the main event. Unlike that squeezing tension pain, a migraine is throbbing. It's pounding. It's a pulsing pain that very often starts on just one side of the head. And it almost always brings friends. Severe sensitivity to light and sound, which is why people just need to go lie down in a dark, quiet room. And yeah, it can definitely cause vomiting too.
Okay, so we've met our two fighters, we've seen what they can do. Now let's put them side by side, the real tale of the tape, so we can see the differences crystal clear.
This chart just says it all, doesn't it? For sensation, you've got squeeze versus throb. Location, a TTH is usually all over your head, while a migraine likes to pick one side to start its assault. Other symptoms, the TTH usually flies solo, while a migraine brings its whole crew of aura, nausea, and sensitivities. And really, the bottom line is the impact. With a tension headache, you can usually function. With a migraine, you are down for the count. Knowing the difference is a huge first step, but what do you actually do about it? Let's move on to the game plan. We're going to look at how you manage each one, because the strategies are totally different.
So for preventing tension-type headaches, the most effective approach actually goes right back to that link we talked about earlier. Because of that strong connection to depression, a class of meds called tricyclic antidepressants is noted as being the top preventative treatment.
Now, for treating a migraine that's already started, it's all about an escalating approach. For a mild attack, you start with over-the-counter stuff, NSAIDs like ibuprofen. If that doesn't cut it, you move up to step 2, prescription meds called triptans, which are made specifically to fight migraines. And for those really severe attacks, step 3 often involves injectable or even nasal spray versions to get relief as fast as possible.
And this is absolutely critical. The source material has a major warning here, because some of those stronger migraine meds work by narrowing blood vessels. They have to be used very carefully in older people or anyone with ischemic heart disease. That's a condition where there's less blood flow to the heart. It's a really important safety check.
So there you have it. We've put them head to head, and it's clear we're talking about two totally different beasts. The final bell is ringing, and the big takeaway is simple. Knowing what you're up against is the first, most powerful step to actually managing it.
At the end of the day, understanding the difference between that constant squeeze and multi-day neurological drama, that's power. That's information you can use. So the only question left is, what will you do with it? Thanks for watching.